We are here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course as we get set for the 6th Annual National Auto Sport Association Championships presented by Toyo Tires. 2 days live here on SpeedcastTV.com. A big weekend here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. National champions will be crowned. You're going to see it all here on SpeedcastTV.com. And we welcome you back to the beautiful, now very bright outside Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Rob Klepper alongside John Lindsay for the 6th Annual National Auto Sport Association National Championships presented by Toyo Tires. Jeremy Scott has been cruising around the pit area all day long, talking to the drivers, following all the stories. And I believe he's down there now. So let's check in with Jeremy Scott down in pit area. Well, Jeremy Scott's still cruising around the pit area, so the weather's been pretty wild here today. We've had rain, we've had sun. It's very bright down there. Now we're being told Jeremy's ready. Let's go down trackside to Jeremy Scott.
Yeah, Rob, thankfully it's bright. The wind's picked up just a little bit, but it's still a very beautiful day. A couple quick stories for you right now. The number 5 of Audrey Zavotsky, she's running an American Iron Extreme, but she normally runs an American Iron. I talked to her about this change, and she said she wanted to do it. And here's what's interesting about this. She ran third in the qualifying race on Friday, and she's running in the bone stock AI class. So it's kind of interesting to see how that's going to shape up. Also, Richard Goanello in 5X, last time he ran here was in World Challenge for Mid-Ohio. The car ended up in the wall off of the keyhole. This is the first time he's taken it out. He says, feels great. He just hasn't gotten the bill. And guys, one more thing. You don't see these unless the teams think something may happen. Gleb?
Well, thanks a lot, Jeremy. And yeah, you don't see that too often at a place like Mid-Ohio, do you?
No, not really, and it sounds like everybody is getting really, really well prepared for any change in weather after all the wacky stuff we see. Now, just a quick note, we were talking about how someone can take it away on a heartbreaker. Last session of time trial, guess what? TTR, Julian Mann, took it away from Tage Evanson on that last lap of the last session.
Wow.
With a 127.01 to Tage's 127.439.
Wow.
Heartbreaker, and just showing that we were actually just a hypothetical thing, and lo and behold, it happened.
That's what the time trial is all about. So it comes down to it. The drama unfolds, and congratulations to Julian Mann there picking up the win. So our next national championship race, again, will be Group B, American Iron Extreme, Super Touring R1 and Super Touring R2, commonly known as STR1 and STR2. They will be on track for their 45-minute national championship race. 2 flag flying starts. The first group is American Iron Extreme and STR1, and this is how they will line up on the pole. The 71 of Chris Griswold, the outside, the 29 of Jake Parrott. These are our American Iron Extreme. Elliot Fisher and Ed McGuire in row number 2. Row 3, Jim Pantis and the 60 of Todd Rogers. Row number 4, the 7 of Audrey Zavitsky and the 19 of Jeffrey Henderson and Paul Fossler. In the 1, the top 9, that will be all American Iron Extreme. 4 STR1 cars. Troy Lindstrom will be out in his Chevy Super Truck. Terry Free, Giddy Up Racing Ed Charnock, and of course TC McNett will be in that first group.
Our second flying flag, sorry, it's been a long day. Our second flying start will be our American Iron cars. First position in that belongs to Regional Director from the Mid-Atlantic, Chris oh, good Lord.
It's getting longer.
Chris Cavetto, he's lined up next to Ryan Winchester. Next row, TJ Bain and Richard Golanello. Then Brian Fessler, son of Paul Fessler, next to Robin Burnett. Next up, Brett Mars, Chris DeSalvo together, Steve Post, Landon Ball up next, then Will Stukas, Robert Corzin, Bruce Byerly from Florida, Dean Martin, very successful racer, one of the leaders of the Rehagen Racing Group. Up next, then Jeff Wood. Then we move into our STR2 cars. Gary Klein from Hudson, Ohio. Then John Buckert, Scott Herman, all the way from El Segundo, California. John Brownlow, Ed Meekum, and Peter McIntosh, the second from Howell, New Jersey, rounding out our second flying start. They're coming out the front straight here. Looks like we have our AI cars in front of us right now. There's Paul Fessler. That is a really cool car. Started life as a very innocent I believe a 65 Mustang Coupe. It has a turbo the size of my head.
Wow.
Hanging out in the back. If he turns the wick up, it's darn near 4 figures worth of horsepower. Interestingly, he built and wired Chris Griswold's turbo system, did the exhaust, the wiring for Chris. Chris is a multiple champion. He's a real specialist here. Looks like we have a door open on the pace car. Bet they're going to grab that cone. That's pretty cool if they're able to pull it off.
Oh,
hey,
no.
That's too bad.
That's a shame. You hate to see that.
Well, you know, they gave it a shot there, and got to respect the pace car drivers for trying to multitask. That's very nice of them. American Iron Extreme, I bet when they go green, Paul Fessler's going to rocket to the front with all that boost, and we just got our live timing and scoring back, so life is good here in the booth.
AmericanIronRacing.com for more information if you want to surf over there as you watch, which is Group B for their 45-minute national championship race. You know, we talked about the classic battle of muscle machines. It's pretty simple. Choose an American-made car and modify it, and that's how you get American Iron, American Iron Extreme.
And the Extreme is pretty crazy. These guys, for the most part, are on slicks. Look at Griswold go. He's stepping out on Jake Parrott. And what did I say about Fessler? Look where he just came up from.
Oh, yeah.
And Paul is a very, very intense competitor. He builds a lot of cars. Paul's automotive engineering out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And he has his son Brian racing in the AI class. That's Jake Parrott in that nice-looking Camaro. Jake's rod shop. He's up there in Connecticut. And those guys are going at it hard. But look at Griswold, man. He is a specialist here. Smooth driver, G&V machine. He's up in Wisconsin. Very seasoned racer, very serious pony car guy. Also has a lot of time in Spec Miata. Look at Chris coming down there. He was telling me on the back straight. Guess how much speed he can see? 177 miles an hour.
Wow.
He thinks it was 7 or 1. He was too busy to look. There's our American Iron start. Looks like a clean start. Cabetto is taking that inside line. Brian Winchester right next to him. Looks like they got through there pretty clean, and they are off and running. And American Iron Winchester did get around Cabetto in that Speed Lab entry, that S197. You can see the new chassis Mustangs, a lot of them there out front, and they are racing hard. Now this is another class that was on the Toyo Tire, and they also had availability problems, so they switched over to the Hoosier for this race. So again, they will be trying to adjust, just as the Hondas did, to a little bit different tire. And man, they are going hard from the green right there.
AI and AI Extreme, all 1960 and newer American-made sedans.
Very near and dear to my heart. I was one of the creators of American Iron along with Ryan Flaherty. He ran the AI car. I had the AIX car. My AIX car now would probably be a real competitive CMC2 car. So these folks have really innovated and done a great job. You can see TJ Bain there in that 3rd gen Firebird. I know these guys real well. I've been there. Race director before. Dean Martin in the 50 car, moving up right by Landon Ball there in that 3rd gen Camaro. Dean's coming from the back, had some challenges with some disqualifications for being over power, but he will be charging up to the front, especially after that performance we saw in that ST2 race where he was right behind the Super Unlimited entry. There's Paul Fessler. Looks like he's coming up to see Griswold, and that car is so fast. When it goes by, fully on boost, you can absolutely see time rotating backwards on your watch. It's that fast.
Well, it's really just cool to look at. I mean, it really kind of just takes you back when you think of, you know, American muscle cars. This is kind of what comes to mind.
So Griswold and Fessler are right there. You see Fessler running down Chris Griswold. They are hauling the nail when they go through here. Our windows are rattling when these guys go by in these big thumpers. Paul is chasing Chris down. Chris is going to be nervous because Paul is not going to take no for an answer. They've already put a great deal of distance on Jake Parrott there, so they are moving out and moving on.
Well, Paul Fessler there in the lead in American Iron Extreme. Currently leading the Great Lakes region. He actually won here in 2008 at Mid-Ohio. Oh, yeah.
Cabetto and Winchester racing hard there for P1 and American Iron. Ooh, and Cabetto is moving up and saying, well, I really don't care about this beautiful paint job on this nice Speed Lab Mustang Performance Auto Sport out of Virginia.
No 13 rule here, huh?
No, there's no 13-13 rule. So looks like whatever Cabetto did, it moved him over enough, and he's getting out there and getting up front. Headed to the front in the express lane, but he is not going to be alone up there. He has a lot of competition coming right along. And TJ Bain, that's a great story. Look at that 3rd gen Firebird, very homemade against these very, very trick S197 Mustangs that are 20, 30 years newer. You know, that's a probably about an 84, 85 Firebird. And TJ is just a heck of a shoe. He won the Midwest Division last year for AI, and he is coming alive going up to the front. 4th position now, it looks like, in the American Iron class.
Off of Madness down the hill, you see that white number 134. Talked about it, the Firebird of TJ Bain out of Illinois. Now into Thunder Valley. These guys are trying to find this thing out, but they're hanging it out. You know, the sun has come out, and this track is starting to get some grip back. And we're seeing them slide through the corners, but it's not because of a slippery racetrack. It's because they're on the hammer.
Well, and once again, they may have made compromises in their setup, so we'll see how this plays out as the tires get hotter. If the car's softer, it's not going to work the tires quite as hard. Maybe. I'm not sure. Really not knowing a lot about the setup on these cars. They could be compromised. That's Chris DeSalvo, friend of mine as well. He is number 37, I believe. I know Chris pretty well. He has run World Challenge 2 with one of those cars. And there's TJ hanging in, giving DeSalvo a little bit of a headache there on his back bumper.
And can throw a blanket over these guys, 1, 2, 3, 4.
It looks like that's Richard Golinello, as we mentioned, a World Challenge driver as well. And so it's a parade of 3 S197 chassis. These are the newer cars. They're running that new 5-liter motor. I believe DeSalvo and Golinello are running the Boss version, whereas Chris Cabetto is running the stock version you can get from any Ford dealer in a 2011 Mustang GT. And TJ Bain there running the old tech, but really bringing the wood to these guys and not letting them get away in his 3rd-gen Firebird there. I think David Hasselhoff and Kit would be proud of their cousin there going out and doing a good job in that 3rd-gen Pontiac Firebird.
Well, the 4 of Chris Cabetto is doing a great job there as they cruise down into, once again, Thunder Valley. Cabetto in American Iron, or AI. Still a 4-car kind of breakaway there. About a 4-car length advantage there for Cabetto. Golinello there in 2nd, the 5X. DeSalvo 3rd. TJ Bain 4th. Ryan Winchester in the 56. Not in your picture there, rounding out your top 5. That is in American Iron.
And we'll see what the spread is. We've got a 4-car breakaway here in American Iron. They're coming across the line, so we'll get an idea of what the spread is from this top pack back to Ryan Winchester. And there's Dean Martin. He is coming on like a freight train. And here's a shot of Griswold working through some lap traffic there. I can imagine Paul Fessler is not far behind, and he will be coming up on Griswold soon to challenge him for the championship here in American Iron Extreme.
Yeah, and Griswold has been pretty good as of late. He is the defending winner of AIX, current point leader in the Midwest region. He won here at Mid-Ohio back in 07, finished 3rd here in 08, so he knows this place pretty well. Wow. Very close there in the keyhole.
Well, and again, that was a really heads-up play by Chris. He could have forced the issue and gone inside, but he knows he's going to turn the wick up on his turbo. Look at that car go. My gosh, he can get it up to 170 and change. That is hauling the mail. Going down that front straight, look at that closing speed that he is able to achieve. Really fast, but look at Paul Fessler. He's coming up too, and he is on the hammer. Also another turbocharged car. Very, very fast car, very beautifully prepared. Excellent car. I know this one has competed before in the Ultimate Track Car Challenge that our friends at Grassroots Motorsports put on up at VIR, Virginia International every year. Paul is a fierce competitor, and he is going for the win here and not letting Chris Griswold get out of his sights.
Into Thunder Valley, and then of course through turns 11 and 12, which is known as Carousel, one of the most famous parts of the Mid-Ohio sports car course. If you're just joining us, we are live here on SpeedcastTV.com for the 6th annual NASA National Championships presented by Toyo Tires. My name is Rob Klepper alongside John Lindsay, Jeremy Scott, bringing us all the action from the pit lane.
And Rob, just to give you an idea how far Fessler and Griswold are in front of their next competitor, Jake Parrott, they put 30 seconds on Jake already, and we're only 9 minutes into this race. Those guys are clearly the class of the AIX field, but anything could happen, as we know. We're looking out the window here. We're not seeing the clouds encroaching on us, so the AI guys, AIX and the STR crowd may have gotten very lucky with their weather.
We do see the 56 in front of us here in the hot pits out of Iowa. Ryan Winchester in that Ford Mustang GT. The crew going to work on him in the hot pits as we are still clean and green on the race course.
Now look, see that red Mustang right there, Rob? Guess who that is? Dean Martin. He's all over TJ Bain like a cheap suit. Here they come. Charging up under that Honda bridge. Dean is giving TJ all kinds of trouble there, and he is trying to get out of that 4-car pack that's a little bit back, I believe, from Chris Cabetto. You can see Chris is just going under that Keybank Mid-Ohio Bridge. There's Cabetto. There's that 4-car pack right behind him. And Dean Martin is trying to get around TJ Bain so he can get up there and challenge for the win and be able to repeat as an American Iron National Champion and defeat Chris Cabetto. But Cabetto is putting on a great drive so far. So nice to see this. Chris has also triumphed in Specky 30, and this is his first outing in a national championship in a Mustang, and it's been a little bit of a learning curve. Chris tends to call me about once a week to ask me questions about how to set a Mustang up, and I'm no great fountain of information, but at least I can point him to people who do know what they're doing.
Well, Dean Martin there in that beautifully prepared red and white number 50 cars. They hit back down into turn number 2 now, and he's looking high, looking low, and he's going to try and put a move on him.
And TJ was trying to get around Chris DeSalvo, and maybe while he was doing that, gave Dean Martin the advantage he needs. Look at Dean pulling him right there. Dean and TJ Bain side by side right behind Chris DeSalvo coming down into this corner. Dean is going to try to maintain that inside line. He's going inside DeSalvo, looking for Richard Golinello. And here comes Griswold. My gosh, he's already caught up to the back of the field. So he is absolutely at warp speed, ludicrous speed. He may have gone to plaid. He is going so fast.
Well, Dean Martin there through Madness and back down Madness into turn 6. And you're right, I think maybe those guys kind of hold him up a little bit. He's got a few car links on him. Beginning to pull away to try and now run down Cabetto.
I think Dean is on a mission here. He's running 1:34.825 on his last lap by. Cabetto at a 35.399, so that may be significant. And here comes Griswold trying to work his way through this leading AI pack, but they got problems of their own, especially Richard Golinello, who now has a mirror full of Dean Martin's number 50 or 5.0 as it looks like car. Again, that famous moniker of 5.0 now back, that the Mustangs are running 302 cubic inch 5-liter motors. And there comes Griswold.
Yeah, Dean Martin started back in the last row of AI, so he has passed a bunch of cars coming from about 13th or 14th to get into the top 3 and have a chance to get by Golinello here and then hopefully catch Cabetto and battle for the lead.
It looks like Cabetto is passing lap traffic as well as Griswold comes up to him, and Golinello has a mirror full of Dean, and Dean is just all over him. These guys are trying to get up to Cabetto. Maybe they work together. I know I believe they're out of the same shop, that Rehagen Racing shop out of Michigan. And they may work together a little bit to manage that draft and get up to Chris Cabetto, or not. Dean has his headlights on, so he's saying, hey, Richard, get out of the way. I got something to do here. And that was just an absolute textbook pass. Used the draft, got out, used that little bit of a pull, and just got right around Richard Golinello. Chris Cabetto's got a world of trouble coming, and it's called Dean Martin. He's right there, coming right up, and Dean's got to get past that lap car before he gets up to challenge Chris Cabetto for the national championship here in American Iron.
Yeah, that last lap, he was just about a second quicker than the leader, Chris Cabetto. So Cabetto's thinking, man, I need to get some of these slower traffic in between us as he's going to try and plug along there. You see the 68.
I believe that's probably Elliott Fisher.
That is Elliott Fisher, yeah. Ford Mustang, Great Lakes competitor, and American Iron Extreme. But back on the 50 of Dean Martin, laying down some of the fastest laps in AI as he is trying to run down Chris Cabetto. And yeah, Martin
and Cabetto had about the same. Dean was a little bit slower, but he was also dealing with traffic. Chris is trying to get some lap traffic in between him as we come down in the keyhole, but there's Martin, headlights on, and that may be a little bit of a psychological game too. Looking up and seeing those headlights, boy, that's often in endurance racing over in Le Mans and other places. Headlights are on means you getting ready to go.
So there is your leader, Chris Cabetto, and AI heading down into turn number 4 as we eyeball the front straightaway once again. About halfway through this event for the American Iron and American Iron Extreme, Super Touring R1 and R2. Still a lot of racing left to go. Stay with us right here on SpeedcastTV.com for more coverage of the 6th Annual NASA National Championships presented by Toyo Tires.
This portion of the National Autosport Association National Championships presented by Toyo Tires is brought to you by Hoosier Racing Tire, tires designed for champions. And by GoPro, be a hero, GoPro.
Meet the Mazda 2. Pump friendly and loaded with value. But its secret power is super metal. High tensile steel, making the Mazda 2 lighter, yet stronger, and nimble as an intergalactic jackrabbit. Because if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. We build Mazdas. What do you drive?
There's a reason why. In 6 years of powering every car in the Indianapolis 500 race, not a single Honda engine has failed. It's not the parts we make them from. It's the part we put in to every Honda.
State your desires.
Speed, adrenaline, competition.
Calculating. Result in 3, 2, 1. The National Autosport Association. Start here.
And welcome back to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, the 6th annual National Autosport Association National Championships. A big weekend here presented by Toyo Tires, American Iron Extreme, American Iron, Super Touring R1 and R2 on the racetrack now for their national championship race. Rob Klepper alongside John Lindsay with the call, and Jeremy Scott down in the pits.
Well, we're watching that battle for the lead in AI between Chris Cabetto and Dean Martin. Dean Martin, 2009 team champion in the Grand Am Series, 2010 NASA champion in American Iron. Used to be a chassis engineer, I believe, over at the Ford Special Vehicle team, and he is all over
Yeah,
Chris. Both these guys have their headlights on, psychological move. Chris's car is actually a Saleen S302R. That's the #1 car that they built. Very cool Saleen bodywork on it, the Speed Lab team. And these guys are just absolutely going at it. We should note also that in American Iron Extreme, both Paul Fessler and Chris Griswold are below the track record for American Iron Extreme that Paul Fessler previously set in 2008.
So as they head into turn at number 5, known as Madness, Chris Cabetto in the 4, again, Dean Martin right behind him. That's first and second in AIX. We haven't talked much about the Super Touring cars. They're out here, of course. STR1 right now. It's Troy Lindstrom in that number 66 Chevy Super Truck who is leading STR1. We saw him yesterday out here at Mid-Ohio.
STR2, John Bucker down in front with another truck, Scott Herman, and Gary Klein in the 333. But look at this battle unfolding right in front of us now. An interesting thing to note, Dean was actually leading the 2009 American Iron Championship race at Miller, and in the last complex of corners, he overcooked it a little bit and stuffed it into the wall and gave the championship over to Ross Murray on that year. So Dean may have that in his head right now, and he is just sniffing Cabetto out, challenging him in different places, seeing what Chris is going to do, how he's going to react until he makes that move, and then he's going to try to check out. Looking at lap times, last time through, Dean Martin had a 1:33.578 compared to Cabetto's. Well, actually, no, that was the best lap time. Last time through, they were 1:35.038 for Martin, 1:35.309 for Cabetto. But Dean Martin's best lap is actually a 33.578, so he's got a lot left if he's going to come up and challenge Chris. Probably managing tires right now, making sure that he's going to have enough left at the end of the race. We're about 20 minutes in to the American Iron American Iron Extreme STR1 and STR2 National Championship race here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. There's TJ Bain again. Hanging in there, TJ, and these guys are really, really battling hard. Kind of reminding me of the battle there between Kevin Helms and John Maris in our Honda Challenge 1 race. A lot of respect there, not a lot of bumper music, and these guys are just driving the wheels off these cars, and I cannot imagine the level of... I just completely lost it. Dean Martin.
Martin with a nice run coming into Thunder Valley now to the
Cabeto's
outside.
not giving up. Whoa, look at that. That was some heads-up driving right there. Dean thought he had that, looked over, saw Chris, said, whoa, I don't want to bend my fenders up. So these guys are giving each other a good deal of room, but they are racing really close and really hard in cars that are very similar, but really showing how neat those new chassis Mustangs are. But again, TJ Bain is hanging in there in a very old tech Firebird, and these guys are not really putting a ton of time on the rest of the field. But you got to realize, too, these are two very talented drivers. Chris drives a lot. Dean, of course, pro driver in the past, and he is just fantastic behind the wheel. Look at this battle. He is inside. He is outside. He is all over the place trying to get by Chris Cabeto and get out in front of the American Iron field.
Well, the last time we saw him come through keyhole right there, he did the same thing and played a little game of chess there in about 100 feet entering turn 2. Outside that inside, he'll try it again here down the back straightaway through the kink now into turn number 4 known as China Beach, and will tuck in once again behind the 4 of Chris Cabeto. Take a look at the inside through Madness, not enough to get by. Cabeto shuts the door and they'll remain glued to each other nose to tail as they work off turn 6 through the Honda Bridge in turn 7 now to turn 8. And I tell you what, it's going to take something. It's going to take a mistake, I think, for Cabeto to allow Dean Martin to get by him.
I mean, Chris right now is cool hand Luke. No matter what Dean is doing, he is just maintaining a nice, consistent, just about, as far as I'm concerned, perfect line through these corners, using every inch of this racetrack to maximize his speed. Dean is up and down and all around, and Chris is playing it cool. Now, I think a little bit of gamesmanship might have been going on around that back straight. You're allowed one defensive move in any corner in NASA racing, and Dean may have been moving around trying to get Chris to zig and zag, so he might have a chance to throw in some paper later if he kind of got Chris to do a move like that, but not sure. It looks like we have a big smoker. That's Terry Free.
And
that's bad news. That's
water out. Yep.
Yeah, that's water, and that's a Z06 Corvette there. Terry, boy, he has had some hard luck. There's Dean Martin inside of Chris Cabeto. Oh, he made it stick. I bet Chris is not happy about that, and we are going to see Chris Cabeto now trying to take it back from Dean Martin, who came all the way from the back and has now pedaled to the front of the American Iron field.
Yeah, and he did it down in keyhole. He kind of set him up the last 2 previous laps and got it done. So our new leader from deep in the field, and AI gets loose and almost
look at
collects
that.
the 4 of
went
Cabeto.
Right by him.
Wow.
And look, now Cabeto's a little loose. That was an amazing move right there by Chris. Great heads-up driving. Capitalized, like you said, Rob. Little mistakes here and there. Chris made a little mistake in the keyhole. Dean got him. Dean made a little mistake in Madness, and there was Chris waiting to pounce. So these guys are racing hard for the win.
You know, you got to imagine that Dean Martin, after having raced from the back to the front, 2, 3, 4, 5 laps, finally gets by Cabeto, races 2 more turns, makes a mistake, loses the lead.
Oh, how frustrating. And I bet right now they both of these guys have a lot of emotions going on in their head. And these cars, you know, they're big cars. They do have power steering, but it is hard to horse one of these big mamas around for a 45-minute national championship race. We're about 23 minutes in, Rob. And wow, they are just not letting up. Our GoPro speed camera right there showing the just smoking fast speeds. Chris using all the track, getting on the rumble strips, trying to keep ahead of Dean Martin. Looks like we have lap traffic that may be a factor when these two guys approach. I believe that might be an extreme car, so it might have a little more sauce, and they may be having to tangle with them when they come down to China Beach. Look how close Dean was right there. He may have actually whiffed some of the stickers off of Cabeto's bumper.
Well, you can see entering keyhole there that Cabeto really drives it into the low part of the racetrack with a lot of steam and kind of pushes up, and that's what allows Dean Martin to get underneath him. Just not enough power there to come off turn 2. He'll try again maybe to the outside here in China Beach. Now up the hill to Madness.
That was a strategy move. Cabeto stayed inside because it is almost impossible to motor around the outside of someone there. Great strategy move, real chess game between these two very experienced, very talented drivers. Can you believe the car control that both of these guys are displaying? So close and not touching, no big wrecks yet, knock, knock, knock on wood. And they are putting on a great show for us, similar to what we saw in Honda Challenge, Spec Miata, some of the best racing.
And here comes Dean Martin again. Again, you are watching the American Iron National Championship. This is for the lead. Chris Cabetto in the 4, Dean Martin in the 50. Into Carousel. Dean Martin taking a look to the inside through the rumble strips. And now headed to the start-finish line right in front of us. There they go. And Martin will take another look now to the inside as they race down in the fastest part of this racetrack, which is turn 1. Can he make it stick?
Oh, my gosh, Rob. These guys are putting on quite a show. And I just got some news that there was Chris Griswold again out there lowering the lap record again. So he's having himself a heck of a battle with Paul Fessler as well. So both American Iron classes here putting on quite a show for us. Unbelievable how these guys are pedaling these cars and going at it hard and very clean so far. Looks like Chris and Dean have 9-second lead until Richard Golinello in P3 there. They're coming up. That's probably...
And Dean Martin again now takes a look to the inside as they head into China Beach. I think he has enough to get by Cabetto, who does want to give it up.
Maybe not. These guys are side by side, going up over the top, being very careful not to touch. Dean hangs the tail out a little bit. Chris is ahead by a fender. Dean is ahead by a fender, and Dean Martin makes the pass in that very technical Madness complex on Chris Cabetto.
So for the second time here in this national championship race, Dean Martin has gotten by the 4 of Chris Cabetto and taken the lead.
And they are coming up, I believe, on T.C. McNett. And also Jeff Henderson right there, and Jeff wrote in his driver information that Celine of an older generation that he has, this is the 120th race that car has started, so it's an experienced race car.
T.C. McNett in the Super Touring R1 class out of California, the Southern California region as Dean Martin crosses the stripe, now opening up about 4 or 5 car lengths on Chris Cabetto.
So Dean all of a sudden has found a little more pedal or something, and he is just starting to really open up a gap there. Cabetto is no longer right on him, but I can't imagine that will last for long as they are working their way through traffic again. Chris is right there, and if Dean makes a little bobble, I guarantee Chris will capitalize on it right away.
And Dean's still rolling with the headlights on, especially coming up on the slower traffic to let these guys know, guess what? The leaders are coming. Watch out.
That looks like Jim Panis they're coming up on, another one of our regional directors for NASA. So they are zooming up on them, and more lap traffic for these guys to deal with as they continue their battle for 1 and 2 in the American Iron class here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
Audrey Zavodsky in the 7, running American Iron Extreme. I heard Jeffrey Scott talk about how she has an American Iron car. We saw her finish 3rd in AIX on Friday night.
Looks like Audrey's running P6 in AIX right now. You can see Jim Panis there. He is P5, so Cabetto and Dean Martin are working their way up to 5th place in the AIX field, so those guys are really hauling the mail to get up there with those faster cars.
Chris Cabetto there in that 4 as they cross the stripe right in front of us.
Looks like they have Ed Meekum in the number 0 car in between them now. So it'll be interesting to see how Cabetto handles that to try and get around and get to Dean Martin. But Dean is a very, very crafty and clever racer. I'm sure he will use that to his advantage. There's Chris Griswold still smoking fast. Paul Fessler, where's he at? Looks like Chris is still out front there and really, really driving a smooth, consistent race. And we are looking for Paul Fessler. I don't see him in our picture there, Rob. I wonder if something has happened to Paul.
Well, Griswold just laid down a pretty fast lap, 128.797. He is shown as the overall leader here in this national championship race. They're in that blue and white number 71.
It looks like Fessler has fallen back about 21 seconds from Griswold, so something might be wrong. But Chris Griswold, you can see him there, that just extreme speed. He's coming up on Jeff Henderson. Jeff and Chris have actually shared cars in American Iron Extreme before. and Inspect Miata. They're good buddies, so Jeff will probably look up, see Chris, and say, hey, buddy, go on by and keep pursuing that dream of a national championship in American Iron Extreme here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Zoom, boy, he went by him just like a shot fired out of a gun.
You can see the ticker on the top of your screen. That is the running order in AIX. As your leader right there, the blue and white number 71, Chris Griswold. Paul Fessler second, Jake Parrott third, Todd Rogers fourth, Jim Pantis. We saw the 84 now rounds out your top 5, but you're right, Griswold blistering the times here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
And now he's coming up, I believe, which car is that? I think that's the car Dean Martin was driving yesterday in that that Super Touring 2 race. So that is probably one of his team cars there. Couldn't catch a number, but boy, look at Chris just using every inch of track. Look at the closing speeds he's able to put on those American Iron cars.
Well, it's got to be fun, you know, when you get around cars that are just a little bit slower and you can kind of slice and dice your way through and blow by them in the corners or down the long straightaway here at Mid-Ohio. So he's having a good time out there, having a ball and getting it done. Not only is the AIX leader, he is the overall leader right now on the racetrack.
And I tell you, Chris's crew chief is his wife, Sue, and they work on that car together, travel around the country together racing, really have a great time. And I would be confident in saying that Chris's car turns the boost up not just to 10, but to 11. His turbo goes to 11. There's Dean Martin again coming down into Thunder Valley.
Dean Martin in the 50 car out of Michigan. A huge lead. Regular competitor with the Great Lakes region. We don't see Chris Cabetto out there.
Well, Chris seems to have fallen back a little bit. I don't think he's the kind of guy to settle for a second place. Let's see, there's Cabetto, I think, just coming into our picture. So let's see how big of a gap Dean has opened up on Chris right now. Dean coming across the line, Chris there, 3.438 seconds later. Last lap time on both of those guys. Dean Martin 1:34.561. Chris Cabetto 1:35.264. So Dean has Chris covered by about 7/10 of a second and is trying to put a little time on him. But once again, traffic can be a factor and Chris can pull right up anytime. Chris is praying for a full course yellow here, and we are at 31 minutes of race time. And how we've been going, we've seen about 36, 37 minutes of actual running time. The way we measure is when we leave the pits until when we come in. So we are nearing the end of our American Iron and American Iron Extreme STR1, STR2 championship race.
Again, Chris Cabetto through the kink, which is turn 3 into turn 4, known as China Beach. Up to turn 5, known as Madness. If you're just joining us here on SpeedcastTV.com, the closing laps of Group B, American Iron Extreme, Super Touring R1, and Super Touring R2. As you see Jim Pantis in the 84 for a second there. Then back to Chris Cabetto, currently second in the AI.
We can hear over our audio just those tires screaming in pain because they are just being abused out here. Very hard racing on these big heavy cars. They are doing great, and what a race we have had here for American Iron and American Iron Extreme.
There is again Dean Martin in the 50. Past us in the start-finish line down into turn number 1. A nice lead over Chris Cabetto there. He has picked up some time on the 4 car. So I don't know if Dean Martin continues to get faster, or likely Cabetto slowing down just a little bit. Maybe using that car up, trying to not only hold Dean Martin off, but get back out in front of him.
Absolutely, and you know, Chris may have used up a lot of his tires, and you know, he just may be tired because this is not easy to do. Looks like there may be 2 laps left when we see the 71 coming up here. Getting close to the end of this race, and there is Chris Griswold. Look at him coming up on Cabetto, I believe. Just the closing rates are insane with that blue number 71 car.
And Chris Griswold won the Thursday qualifying race. He was the overall winner and the AIX winner. He also picked up the AIX qualifying race on Friday, so he's looking to continue his winning ways and keep that 1,000 batting average here into the national championship race.
I tell you what, Chris is a fierce competitor. He loves pony cars and he loves winning. So he's putting on quite a nice performance here. Looks like he's coming up through those American Iron cars in the 3, 4, 5 positions once again coming up on Troy Lindstrom as well. Looks like that's Richard Golinello, I believe, again. Troy Lindstrom right there in our Super Touring field. Looking at STR1, Troy's actually out in front of STR1, so he had a little bit of a setback in Super Unlimited yesterday, but he's going to take home the gold in STR1 if he continues. There's Chris DeSalvo and TJ Bain as well. Those guys right now, they are fighting for P4 and P5 in American Iron. Richard Golinello just in front of those two guys. Exciting stuff here. We're waiting for the 71 of Griswold to materialize again before we start to think about that white flag lap. There's TJ Bain again. Third gen Firebird holding off those S197 chassis Mustangs.
Yeah, and we mentioned Lindstrom there. You talked about him for a minute, that Chevy Super Truck. Always cool to see him out here at Mid-Ohio with all these different types of vehicles, and see that big truck out there turning some pretty fast laps. He was very quick here yesterday, chasing down the Super Light. Today he is leading at this point in STR1.
Yes, he is, and that's great for him. Second place, I think, yesterday in one of the classes, and now he's trying to take home the win in STR1 in that Team Jägermeister. Wonderful stuff, that Jägermeister Super Truck.
Up through Madness, turn 5, and back down the hill again. Great spot if you ever come out to Mid-Ohio to watch. See the fans up there with their lawn chairs and their umbrellas as the sun is out. It's pretty bright here at Mid-Ohio.
It looks like TJ Bain is sticking to Richard Golinello there, trying to move up the order. Looks like our white flag is getting ready to come out. Chris Griswold, we can see it, you can't. Right at the tape right now, turn 1. White flag lap is out. Dean Martin is right behind Chris, so here we go into the final lap of our American Iron Extreme STR1, STR2 National Championship race.
5X Golinello right now third in AI. He is quite a bit behind Cabetto and Dean Martin, who have been battling pretty much for the lead all day long in American Iron.
Looks like Cabetto's about 5 seconds behind Dean, and Richard is about 18 seconds behind Dean. So Dean is just checking out. But again, look at that great battle right there with TJ Bain and Richard Golinello. TJ is going to try and eke his way up onto that podium and get a win for the GM boys. Well, not a win, but a third place finish on the podium there for the GM boys. You really got to respect TJ. He is doing it with that very simple equipment. He's wrenching on himself. He's an electrician, but he seems to also have some great skills as both a mechanic and a driver. Very proud to see him running hard here at Mid-Ohio.
And Dean Martin for the final time underneath the Honda bridge, headed down into Thunder Valley. That Ford Mustang makes a lot of noise as he heads underneath the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course Bridge and into Thunder Valley. Then, of course, through Carousel and back here in front of us on the front straightaway as the checker flag comes out. The 71 of Chris Griswold takes the win in the American Iron Extreme and Overall.
And here comes Dean Martin. There he goes, the big winner in American Iron. Dean Martin with a great drive. Looks like Chris Cabetto will come in second. Richard Golinello, not yet. Here he comes into the carousel. Look at TJ. He says, I got to get it done right here. He's on. Can TJ pull it off in the last corner? He's running up beside him. Can't get it done right at the stripe. Great effort by TJ Bain and Richard Golinello, too, holding him off. And we just had a car come in the dirt, Brett Mars.
Yeah, Brett Mars.
Right in front of us at the finish. Again, there goes Troy Lindstrom across the line, capturing a win in STR1 for Troy and the Team Jägermeister, Team Lynam Racing Super Truck.
Wow, just some great racing, some very fast laps, high speeds here in AI, AIX, STR1, and STR2. But how about Chris Griswold? Wow.
Wow, Chris Griswold leading flag to flag. I think the final he still had about 30 seconds or so against Paul Fessler, and that is not an easy thing to do, to get 30 seconds on Paul Fessler. Chris Griswold, great drive for Chris. So proud of him. So proud of all of our racers here in these classes. What a clean race. Again, you saw that respect with Dean Martin, Chris Cabetto, and also in the latter or the next few positions in American Iron with TJ Bain, Richard Golinello, and Chris DeSalvo all racing hard. Brian Fessler was right there too. Very, very great race again.
So it is Chris Griswold. AI Extreme goes back-to-back. He won last year at Miller Motorsports Park, gets the win here. Paul Fassler will come home in second, and Jake Parrott on the podium in the 29 in American Iron Extreme.
American Iron, number 50, Dean Martin taking the win. Chris Cavetto in the number 4 car, second place. Richard Golinello in the 5X taking the final position on the podium for American Iron.
So that will wrap up that national championship race. Again, want to mention John Buckert in STR1, Troy Lindstrom taking the win in STR2. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk to the winners here at Mid-Ohio.
This portion of the National Autosport Association National Championships presented by Toyo Tires is brought to you by Hoosier Racing Tire, tires designed for champions. And by GoPro, be a hero, GoPro.
Meet the Mazda 2. Pump friendly and loaded with value. But its secret power is super metal. High tensile steel, making the Mazda 2 lighter yet stronger and nimble as an intergalactic jackrabbit. Because if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. We build Mazdas. What do you drive?
There's a reason why. In 6 years of powering every car in the Indianapolis 500 race, not a single Honda engine has failed. It's not the parts we make them from. It's the part we put in to every Honda.
State your desires.
Speed, adrenaline, competition.
Calculating. Result in 3, 2, 1. The National Autosport Association. Start here.
And we're back here live on SpeedcastTV.com. Rob Klepper alongside John Lindsay as we have just finished our American Iron Extreme, Super Touring R1 and R2 National Championship race. Well, let's go down pit side now to Jeremy Scott, who has both the AI and AIX winners. Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm flanked by both the AI and AIX drivers. Chris Griswold won in AIX. Dean Martin won on American Iron. But let's go to Chris Griswold first. You put on a clinic out there. Let's talk about that.
It went well. I mean, I got a good jump at the start, and Paul behind me, I knew he was coming from the back, and he got the 5 seconds and then started working through traffic, and I just kind of stretched it out. His tires got a little slippery after about a half hour, but I just kind of, took it a little second or two after that, and it worked out really well. Everybody was really clean getting through, pointing me by. Awareness was really good on the track, so that really helped getting through traffic.
Well, congratulations. Let's go over to Dean Martin. Dean, that was a hell of a run.
That was fun.
Let's talk about the battle for the lead first off, because that was just back and forth constantly.
Yeah, we, I got a good run on him. I was much better under brakes, and I think he had a little bit of power on me, but it was pretty even. But I had the brakes, and I was just kind of waiting. I was trying to force him into a mistake. He started overdriving the car and wearing out his tires, and after what it was 3-4 laps, I don't know, it was a while we battled, and his tires got a little hot, and I was just kind of biding my time, and I got a run on. I took a stab at him early, and I just got way too deep in the brakes. He was being real defensive and made me work real hard, and And it just, you know, after a while, I think I wore him down. After I couldn't pull it off, I said, all right, I'll slow down, back up, wear him down a little bit more, and then I got him, and I caught traffic in a good spot, and I saw that he got stopped up behind it, and it allowed me the gap, and you know, and then I just tried to hold that gap. I kept watching. I got caught up in traffic, and then he got caught up in traffic, so it was good. It was a lot of fun, and I'd like to thank all of our servicemen and women today. 9/11. We couldn't do this without them, so thank you.